For a better experience, please use headphones. 3 terrifying sleep paralysis stories. Do you have nightmares that feel too real to be just dreams? Are you scared of something lurking in the darkness waiting for you? From a man visited by a horrifying entity to a group of friends that make a macabre discovery. The demon in my dreams. It all started when I was just a child. I would have these nightmares night after night. In them, I was always paralyzed in my bed, unable to move or scream. I would feel a heavy pressure on my chest, like something was trying to suffocate me. I was terrified and couldn't explain what was happening to me. Little did I know that I was experiencing sleep paralysis. It's a condition where you're conscious but unable to move. Terrifying visions and hallucinations often accompany it. One night, I had the most vivid dream of all. I was in my bed, paralyzed, and could hear a voice calling my name. It was a deep, distorted voice that seemed to be coming from far away. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand on my chest, and I could see a figure hovering above me. It was a woman with long, dark hair and piercing eyes. She was whispering in my ear, telling me to come with her. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, and I was too scared to move. The woman leaned in closer, and I could feel her breath on my face. Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. "I know what you fear most," she said. I awoke from the dream in a cold sweat. I looked around, and I was alone in my room. I shook off the terrifying experience as a dream, and I tried to go back to sleep. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was lurking in the darkness, waiting for me. I would go on to experience several more episodes of sleep paralysis, and each time the visions were more vivid and terrifying. I began researching my condition, and the more I learned, the more I became convinced that something ominous was trying to reach me in my dreams. I got paranoid, started to think that the woman in my vision was a demon or spirit trying to lure me away to some dark place. I read about a man in the 1800s who had similar experiences to mine. He said he was being visited by a woman who had come from the other side to lead him away. Could this be the same woman I had seen in my visions? My fear and paranoia only increased as I continued to research. I started to feel that the woman in my vision was connected to all of these experiences, as if she was some kind of conduit. I even began to suspect that she was somehow connected to me. The more I researched, the more I became convinced that this woman was not a dream or hallucination, but a real entity trying to reach me. It was a terrifying thought, and I was afraid that she would come back for me. I had no idea why she was trying to contact me or what she wanted from me. All I knew was that I was in danger, and I had to find a way to protect myself. After weeks of research, I discovered the woman's identity in my visions. She had the characteristics of the demon known as Lilith, a creature of the night who feeds upon the fear of her victims. I knew I had to find a way to protect myself from her, but I had no idea how. I started researching rituals that could ward off evil spirits, but nothing seemed to work. Finally, I stumbled upon an ancient tradition that promised to drive away evil entities. I knew it was my only chance to protect myself from Lilith, so I decided to try it. I performed the ritual and crossed my fingers that it would work. The following day, I woke up feeling exhausted but relieved. It seemed like Lilith had been driven away, and I was safe. Or so I thought. Months later, I started having the same nightmares again. I had the same visions, the same cold hand on my chest, and the same deep, distorted voice calling my name. I knew Lilith was still out there, and she was coming back for me. I was terrified, and I had no idea how to protect myself. I'm still trying to find a way to keep Lilith at bay and protect myself from her sinister influence. I'm starting to lose hope. I'm scared that she'll never leave me alone and that I'll be trapped in this nightmare forever. This is my story, and I'm sharing it with you as a warning. Sleep paralysis is real, and it can be terrifying. Be careful and stay safe. The deadly encounter. It all started when I was about 16. I had started having these strange dreams that were both intense and vivid. I felt like I was in a completely different world, surrounded by an eerie sense of darkness and dread. The dreams were always the same. I would lie in my bed, paralyzed, unable to move or scream. I could feel something sitting on my chest like it was trying to suffocate me. I was terrified and couldn't explain what was happening to me. It wasn't until I was diagnosed with sleep paralysis that I realized what was happening. This dreadful condition is often accompanied by terrifying visions and hallucinations. I was told to take steps to manage my anxiety and learn to control my dreams, but the visions kept coming, and I couldn't do anything to stop them. One night, I had the most vivid dream of all. I was in my bed, paralyzed. Suddenly, I could see a figure hovering above me. It was a strange, hovering, distorted, decapitated man's head. I was filled with fear, yet I was strangely drawn to the figure. I felt a strange sense of familiarity and connection to it. I knew it was trying to tell me something, but I couldn't make out the words. I awoke from the dream in a cold sweat. I looked around and I was alone in my room. I shook off the terrifying experience as a dream, and I tried to go back to sleep. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I would go on to experience several more episodes of sleep paralysis, and each time, the visions were more vivid and terrifying. I did some research and learned that I could take control of my dreams. I read about lucid dreaming and how people were able to control their dreams and overcome the fear of sleep paralysis. I decided to give it a try. I began to practice lucid dreaming, and I was amazed by the results. I was able to control the visions and the fear that I felt during my episodes of sleep paralysis. Once I was able to take control of my dreams, the visions of the strange figure kept appearing, but I was able to interact with it. The decapitated head was giving me hints on locations to explore and other strange things. The locations I was given were old crime scenes and strange places which I had never heard of before. The visions kept coming, and I knew that I had to investigate further. I started to investigate the crime scenes and strange places that I was shown in my visions. I found strange clues and evidence that pointed to a mysterious and sinister force. I talked about it to a cop friend of mine. As I shared my findings with my cop friend, he became increasingly skeptical. He told me that I was probably just getting caught up in my own paranoia and imagination. But I knew there was something more going on. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was getting closer to the truth. We arrived at the last location on my list. It was an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. I refused to go any further, so he went in alone. My cop friend was gone for what felt like hours. When he came out, he was pale and shaken. He told me he had found a corpse in the warehouse. We knew later that the body was identified as a serial killer who had been on the run for years. I was relieved, but also terrified. I knew that I had tapped into something far beyond my understanding, and that I would never be the same again. I've continued to practice lucid dreaming, but I know now that I have to be careful. I have to remember that there are some things in this world that shouldn't be meddled with. We hope these 2 stories left you shaking in your boots. If you liked it, go check out the next part of the sleep paralysis series. We'll see you then.